Hello again, Freedom Finders, and welcome to part two of our interview with Trina L Martin, author of the book From a Mess to Amazing: 7 Steps to Create the Life You Deserve. As a recap, in part one, we discussed some of Trina's career high and low points, along with some barriers that she's noticed minority groups can face when building their careers, along with the importance of protecting our mental health and our spirit whenever we're encountering obstacles so that we can be strong and move towards persevering. We also discussed how Trina faces the juggling act of being a professional along with a mom and very ambitious woman with lots of big goals. She also shared with us how she succeeded as a woman of color in technology and on a broader scale, how to bounce back from dealing with very traumatic experiences, some of which she personally shares in her book. Now let's continue into part two of this conversation. Hello. This is Alisia Young, and welcome to Teach Me Freedom. This podcast is about learning how to live a freer life from authors, entrepreneurs, and experts. Those who have done it and who teach others how to do it as well, and what it feels like while applying those methods to our lives along the way. Every episode will deliver resources, anecdotes, and/or reviews to support you in living a more freedom-filled life. Let's jump in. Please note the video version of this episode is available on YouTube at Teach Me Freedom. The link is also mentioned in the show notes. Enjoy.
If I can say anything to the listeners and to you, what I've learned in my life is always be true to yourself. Always be true to you and who you are, who you stand for, and don't let anyone else tell you what you should do. And that was what I learned from that experience. And it took me many years. And like I said, I almost lost my life in that situation. But always be true to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank God that things worked out, that you can be here with us and sharing your wisdom, sharing your experience like a bright light, and guiding us in the decisions that we make as well through sharing your message. Just want to share praise for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, you're very welcome. And there was something that really resonated with me in your book, and it was when there's actually several things, but there was something that really resonated with me. And you had spoken about like a relationship, and it was one of those ones where you talked about it as well just now, like trying to prove something, and that really resonated with me. Of like, there's this relationship that you would think, it's like, why is this not working? Why didn't you like give me up for adoption, as I think what you had mentioned in the book, like asking that question. And just anytime you try to express yourself or just get answers, just like locked, like closed door. But just always a part of you always just wanting to desperately just connect. And I'm curious about how you got to a point of, because I know right now that's still something I personally struggle with, is trying to make that connection when it's just like, it's not there. I'm not going to get the answers I need, and it's time to move on. But it's just a part of me is like, is rejecting that. Yes. And so how did you get to the point of accepting it and moving on from that? Like, it seems like an innate desire.
I had to come to a point where I had to let that go, let that person go, and not worry about it, because I realized that it was really affecting my life. And that person was really very negative to me. And the more I tried to get their acceptance, it didn't happen. So I had to remember and just think that, okay, you know what? If I keep waiting for their acceptance, it's never going to happen. and I'm going to be unhappy. So I need to move on with my life. So with that, I just realized that, okay, this is an example of what I don't want to do, of what I don't want to be in my life. And this is an example of what I do want to do. And it's funny because I never had that model for me, the things that I wanted. I knew from seeing it in other people and reading it. So I just went off of that and I kind of just said, you know what? I'm not going to continue to chase something from someone who has no capacity to give it to me,
Yeah.
who's refusing to give it to me. So I
Mhm.
have to move on with my life and do what I have to do. And I just know that when the time comes and it's time for me to have that relationship with my children and my family, I know how to do that.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Very well said. Thank you for that. That was like a question I really wanted to make sure I asked, because that's something that I was just like, oh, I felt it when you were writing about that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Ask me anything. Yes. Telling you, I know I've been there.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome. One of the main goals of this podcast is to teach others about certain topics and put it onto other people's radars who might not know about a certain topic. And so something that um, is of high importance is the obstacles that minorities face. And, because it's relevant in this conversation, um, one of those topics is women of color. And so would you be open to sharing more about what you have noticed, both personally, but also just through life experience, and who else are common obstacles that women of color face, and kind of the consequences of that? And yeah, if you could share more about that topic.
Yes, as I said, right now I'm very passionate about, and I feel that it's my calling to speak on the topic of women of color, especially in tech, since I was that woman. But just in general, women of color. And when I say women of color, I'm not talking about just Black or African American women. I'm talking about Latinx, Hispanic women, Native American women, Alaskan Native women, the women who are underrepresented.
Mhm.
And those are the people who I'm talking about. And just some of the things that we face, we don't have the mentors, sponsors. We lack getting promotions, and just seeing ourselves in whatever respective field that we want to be in. And I know specifically I'm talking about tech, and I know you said you're going into a segment of tech.
Mhm.
Don't see someone who looks like you, it's very difficult for you to say that's a path that I want to take. For me, I was just so naive at the time and so driven that I was like, yeah, there's not many Black women in tech, but I'm going to blaze that trail. I'm going to do that. I'm going to, step out there. And like I said, I started my career in the 90s. So here we are 30 years later, and women of color are still facing some of those same obstacles and adversities that they had 30 years ago and beyond. And it's just, that's something that's my passion. But yeah, when you don't get mentors, you don't get sponsors, you don't have people representing you. So, and I'm pretty sure you've seen it, Alicia. Now, some of the big major corporations are trying to put more women of color in big
Mhm.
executive roles. So, like I think we had Starbucks and some other big names that said, okay, oh, now we got this new CEO or new executive, and here she is. She's a woman and she's a Black woman, or she's a Latina woman. And unfortunately, many, many corporations, you don't find that. Like I said, I'm a speaker, and this is one of my main topics. And when a company calls me and they say they want me to come in and speak, I always go to their website and I look at their lineup. I look at who their executives are.
Yeah.
And either I don't see any women, regardless of color, I see no women, or I may see a few white women, but very much no women of color. So it's really an issue, and I know it's a really big issue in tech, but it's also issue in some other industries. But I focus on tech because that's where I came from. But yeah, it's just mentors, role models, getting promotions, being underrepresented. Those are the things that we face, and it's something that in 2021, almost 22, you just can't believe, especially when you're in tech, and we've made all of these advances.
Yeah.
Technology, right? You're like, how is a profession that's so forward looking, how is it that you don't have a diverse population of people? And I know the buzz phrase of the day is diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yes.
It's like it's a buzz phrase now. Everybody's saying that, it's like, ooh, check the box. That sounds real good. But it sounds good, but are you really doing that?
Exactly.
Who do you have there? And like I said, I have, just being the person, working, I've often been the only person in the room, the only woman of color in the room, sometimes only the only woman. And more times than not, the only Black woman. And it's like, okay, I know I'm not the smartest Black woman on the planet. So there are other women of color who should be in this room with me, or should be in that room higher than me, that I can look to and say, you know what, I want to be like Alisia there. She's got that that office by the window and the mahogany desk. I want to be like her. But you don't find that. And that's very, very troubling. And that's kind of why I decided to take this, this role, and have my business do what it's doing.
Yes. Ooh, feeling it, feeling it, feeling it, feeling it.
Yes.
Yes. Please tell us more about what it is that I know that you've shared that women in technology, women of color in technology is something you're absolutely passionate about. Technology is something that you're passionate about. Sharing your message is something that you're passionate about. Tell us more about, before we go into our signature question, please tell us more about what it is that you do, what gifts you share with the world, and also how we can continue to stay connected with you.
Well, thank you. Well, as I said, I'm a speaker and international speaker. So if you need a speaker, a coach, or trainer, I'm your person. I primarily deal with women of color in tech, helping companies hire, promote, and retain women of color in tech. But also I do leadership coaching and speaking on that as well. I have a technology arm of my business where I help business find secure communication technologies. And also I'm starting a new marketing branding side of it, where I'm going to do websites and branding and marketing, things like that. So keeping in that technology realm. But really my love is the speaking and the coaching and helping others. I also have a podcast as well called Trina Talk. But if you want to connect with me, LinkedIn is like my primary social media platform. You can also go to my website. It's trinalmartin.com if you want to book me for speaking or corporate training. And my book, From a Mess to Amazing, you can get that on my website. If you go to the website and go to books, it will take you straight to the Amazon link, or you can go to Amazon yourself or Barnes and Noble and get that. But I'm really happy to connect with anyone out there, any companies that are really looking to really learn how to, get that woman of color in tech, that and hire her and keep her around. I'm really passionate about that.
Yeah, that sounds excellent. Thank you, Trina, for sharing with us. And Freedom Finders, please check out the show notes where you'll see the links that Trina has shared about as well. You've shared a lot about the importance of constant personal development. And so I'm really curious about, out of all the courses and trainings and books that you've read over several decades, what training or course or book or audio or conversation did you find was absolutely monumental for you and led to a huge shift in who you are?
Ooh, wow. That's a good question. Goodness, you know what, I read a lot of books, and I'm always reading several books at a time. So,
Yes.
yeah. Um, oh my goodness. So I have two things, and as you know, I'm a woman of faith, but I talk about prayer and how prayer helped me. The book that I read that was really, really, really kind of not kind of, but really helpful to me was T.D. Jake's book, Crushing. I read that. That was very profound and very resonated so much with me. So that was one thing. But then also staying with TD Jakes, he does a conference every year. It's called the International Leadership Summit, I believe, ILS. But it's not only faith based, he brings very well known people throughout various industries to come and speak at this conference. So this year was my first time actually attending the conference, and it was virtual, as many things are now because of the pandemic. And I have to say, out of all the leadership conferences that I have attended in my lifetime, this was the very best. I've learned so much. I was just so taken back because he had spiritual leaders talking, but then he had people like Tyler Perry, Byron Allen. Oh my gosh, I can't think of the man's name, but he created Worldwide Technologies. He's a black gentleman, which is a tech company. He formed this company, so he's like a billionaire. So he had people like this speaking at this conference as well, and really talking and giving insights on how they made it, what they had to go through, and it was just so. It was, like I said, it was fabulous. When I finished that conference, I called several people saying, you know what, I just finished this conference and this was like the best conference I've ever been to. And it was just, I learned so much. Just speaking to people, and I don't know if you know who Byron Allen is, but, I knew a little bit about him. But just some of the things he talked about and how, he is where he is now. Like he's like a big, telecom mobile. Like he's actually owns a lot of different media outlets, and that's kind of how he started his career. And I don't want to say things incorrectly, but Tyler Perry, and I think we've all kind of heard Tyler Perry's story, but actually getting to hear him and get some deep thoughts and things like that. But yeah, that was the best conference. So those were the two things that have really impacted my life. That yeah, they were amazing, just wonderful things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very cool to hear, especially because it's something that's very important to you. So you've done a lot, you've tried a lot, you've experienced a lot, and it's also very amazing to hear that this is something that's recent, that even amongst everything else that you've, because sometimes you hear some of the same things just rehashed or the message is given in a different way, but to hear that you really took a lot away from it and it's recent, that's really cool to hear as well. And that the other book is very profound for you.
Yeah, I'm big on personal development, so I'm always reading some kind of book. I like, if it's a conference or something that I'm really going to get something out of, because I'm always a student. I'm a firm believer that once you stop learning, you're just, that's it for you. So I'm never at a point where I think I know everything. So I always like to learn, and I'm always looking for people who can impart their wisdom on me. So yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. That's great. And then that leads us to our final question, which is, what are your top 3 resources? So you've shared about the 2 very, very, very monumental and shifting resources that you've come across so far in your life. And would you say are 3 top or more resources you'd share with our audience, which is about what we've talked about today? And we really focused on a career, so developing a fulfilling career, but also looking at limitations that we see in the working world, which prevent certain groups of people from advancing, even though they are more than capable. And then we also talked about if you plan to be a parent or if you are a parent, having that balance so that you can still have a successful career, but also take care of your families. Curious about what your recommended resources would be.
Okay, well, mine are probably not going to be what you think they are.
Okay, I'm excited.
Well, one, of course, and I've stated it a lot, prayer. Big on prayer, counseling, because there's no shame in that. And we all need mental health, right? We need our mental health to be 100%. So definitely that. My next big thing would be someone, a friend, relative, whoever, but someone who you can be really close to, who you can confide in, who can give you sound advice and not necessarily be the person who's always going to agree with you, but be the person who's really going to keep you on the path that you should be. And this is why I say that. I mentioned my friend in the book who I've been friends with for over 30 years. She has seen me through my dark times, my high times, my low times. She has encouraged me. One of her things was always telling me, know your worth, know your worth. But she's also that person that I go to and I talk to. And if I'm saying something that's crazy or, out in left field, she'll tell me, that's crazy. So you need somebody like that. So and this is my saying is, I always tell people, everyone needs that friend who's going to tell you that, that outfit doesn't look good on you.
Honest,
exactly.
But compassionate about them.
They're doing it in love, but they're going to tell you, don't let me go out in the street looking crazy.
Exactly.
You see me looking crazy, please tell me, Trina, you look crazy. So she's that friend. So you need a friend like that. Of course, my book, From a Mess to Amazing, 7 Steps to Create the Life You Deserve. But also find a mentor or sponsor. And this is something that I didn't do because I didn't know about it. But in your career, find someone who can be your mentor. And it doesn't have to necessarily be that you officially go to that person and say, hey, Trina, I want you to be my mentor. I mean, you can, but a lot of times as I got senior in my career, my mentors were people who I looked at from afar. They didn't even know that they were my mentors. But you want someone who you can look at and you can see and kind of see how they're doing things. And then when you have a chance, talk to them. Here's the thing that most people like me who give advice or who are mentors or whatever, what we don't want is someone just coming up and saying, hey, tell me how to do this or how you did this or whatever. But you want to actually give that person a reason to invest in you, because people have earned their wisdom. They have gone through what they're going through or gone through and they've earned their wisdom. So for them to take that time out to actually sit and talk with you or help you, or as far as being a sponsor and go ahead of you and advocate on your behalf, they have to see something in you that they're willing to invest, because it's time, and what we all have that's precious is time, and none of us can get that time back. So if you come to someone, once you've seen them from afar or whatever, and you're like, what, this person is really somebody who I would like to emulate. Most of the time, when people come up to me and they're like, I really, I respect you and whatever. I like that, I appreciate that. And I don't mind mentoring them. But if you're just coming, trying to get and not really showing them how you're going to use it in a positive way, people don't want to just waste their time, right? So they want to really know that you're sincere and you're genuine, and they want to see that in you as far as, okay, if I sit down and I invest my time with Alisia, she's going to really go out and do great things. So but find a mentor, and really find someone that you can see what you want to do in your life, see that they're doing something or at a place where you want to go that you're not. So your mentor shouldn't be somebody who's on the same level as you, because if you both are, you both are trying to, go to McDonald's and get fries, you can't be my mentor. I need somebody who, owns McDonald's, someone who I can look up to, right? So that's what I mean. But no, that's very important. So, and let me clarify this for your listeners. So a mentor and sponsor are not the same thing. So your mentor is someone who you're going to go to for advice, who's going to give you advice, maybe help you out, whatever. Your sponsor is someone who's going to advocate on your behalf, who's going to go before you. So say, Alisia, you're working and you want that job and you're qualified, but it's going to take more than you just applying for that position. So your sponsor is going to be that person who has that connection to whoever is making that decision. And they may go to that person and say, you know what? Alisia is very qualified. She has these credentials. I think you should at least give her an interview and give her a chance. That's your sponsor. Now, your mentor, you're going to go to and say, you know what, Trina, this is what I'm thinking about doing. What do you think? And then I'm going to give you that. So they're two different things. And I know sometimes people think that mentor and sponsor are the same thing. They're not.
Thank you.
So they're different. So those are like my things, my top things that I think people should do for their personal life, career wise, just to be kind of overall well-rounded. So those are the things that you're going to need.
Really, really enjoyed our conversation today. And I feel like you've opened up some new areas to go into more deeply. So I hope to have you on the show again in the future. I'm having some ideas now about some things that we've talked about. And just thank you for everything that you're doing. Thank you for being such an inspirational light and for being a huge leader, and for sharing your message and for really uplifting other people as well, and being a mentor from afar for a lot of people, as I know that without even asking you.
Thank you for having me, and I look forward to being on again. And I also having some things in the works, so maybe by the next time on the show I can share that with you and your listeners. Thank you. I really enjoyed speaking with you. This conversation has been great. You asked some very great questions. So I'm very happy.
Thank you so much, Trina. We're definitely looking forward to that. And Freedom Finders, remember to always honor your time and honor your energy. And we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Teach Me Freedom podcast. We hope you enjoyed it and found it beneficial. Feel free to reach out to us at teachmefreedom2020@gmail.com. And if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to the show on your favorite platform for streaming content. Feel free to comment and leave a 4 or 5 star review if you feel so inclined. Connect with you next time.